Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade, and today on the show, well, it's one big hard pass about NBA All-Star Weekend. Buckle up. We got a long one coming for you guys today. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass, where we take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Like the NBA All-Star Weekend. Like, seriously, blow it up and start over. You know what? Why even bother with it? Kevin Durant's right. All I've been hearing for as long as I've been alive is that it's trash and that no one actually cares and that it's a waste of time. As a Gen Zer, I do not know what it was like in the good old days when people weren't complaining about All-Star Weekend. So let's just get rid of the whole thing if y'all hate it so much. I'm kidding. Kinda. I don't think the NBA should cancel All-Star Weekend, and I'm definitely not a Gen Zer. I'm more of a young millennial type, born in the 90s. Yeah, that's way more believable. But regardless of my age, which is definitely below 30, what is true is that I have zero memory of people not complaining about All-Star Weekend. The way people bitch and moan about it, you would think it was as worthless as the Pro Bowl or whatever hockey was doing before they decided to get all nationalistic and busted out with their dope Four Nations tourney. By the way, shout out to all my NHL people out there who love Hard Pass. I'm sure there's a handful out there, but y'all need to relax with the NBA hateration. Every time the NBA stumbles, for some reason, hockey fans just love to jump on the bandwagon saying that their sport is superior because they care. Like, okay, I love me some golf and I've worked with the PGA Tour and the TGL, but chances are you'll never hear me talk shit about hockey or basketball to prop up golf. Talking up your favorite sport by bringing down another is weirdly insecure, and I don't get it. I guess it'd be fine if the hockey folks kept the same energy for other sports, but for some reason, they sure do like to pick on the NBA. Not to get all Don Draper on hockey fans, but we don't think about you at all. Hockey is cool, man. I might not watch it on a regular basis, but I love seeing highlights of these bearded bros just beating the hell out of each other during the playoffs. And let's be real, the Stanley Cup is arguably the dopest trophy in sports. Just mind your business, hockey. No, this also applies to the NBA people who love to compare themselves to the NFL. Just stop. Worry about your own house. Oh, and another thing. I love the mental gymnastics every sports talking head is trying to perform by refusing to acknowledge the fraught political climate that is causing the USA-Canada face-off to be a lot more heated than it typically would be. It ain't just because people are passionate and love their home country, dog. There are real-world reasons why the US national anthem is getting booed. While I'm glad it's being addressed by actual news outlets, but yo, those podcast clips I see online of sports people just saying it's pride for their country or whatever, nah. It goes deeper than that. Anyways, back to the NBA All-Star Game. Yeah, don't burn it down. Let's get to the root of it. No one's happy and there's no easy fix for it. And you know who's to blame for it? The players, the league, but also the media and us. The fans. We're all complicit in making the All-Star Game the slog that everybody wants to be invited to, but nobody wants to actually attend. So let's do the blame game, but share it equally amongst the culprits because there's a lot to go around. First up, the players. I can count in one hand the number of times I've been genuinely invested in watching an All-Star game. 1992, when Magic came back after contracting HIV, there were moments watching that game where I thought we were saying goodbye to Magic because we weren't educated enough yet about HIV and AIDS to know that life could still go on even after contracting the disease. 1997, when the league showcased the 50 greatest players during halftime. It was also notable for being one of the first times I had ever seen eventual All-Star Game MVP Glenn Rice play. I even thought to myself, it'd be cool if he was on the Lakers at some point. 2001, when the East was down by like 20 points in the fourth quarter and Allen Iverson and Stephon Marbury led a comeback victory that came down to the final seconds. Side note, of course, Kobe was going to take the last shot, but he made the right decision to pass the ball to Tim Duncan, even though he missed it. That moment should be catnip to LeBron fans who are constantly being crapped on by Jordan and Kobe fans who say LeBron isn't clutch. If Jordan can correctly pass it to Steve Kerr in freaking NBA Finals, and Kobe can do the right thing and pass it to Tim Duncan during an All-Star game, how come LeBron is a punk when he does it? Just saying. The right move is the right move, regardless of who's got the ball. Where was I? 2003. MJ's last All-Star game. Two things about that game. One, MJ had a picture-perfect game-winning fadeaway over a prime Sean Marion taken from him because Jermaine O'Neal fouled Kobe on the other end in the last second. And number two, Mariah Carey in that Wizards jersey dress. One is obviously more relevant than the other, and it's not because it's MJ's last All-Star game. Just to be clear here. Okay, that's 4. And then there was 2020, a tribute to Kobe and a dope fourth quarter thanks to the changing at the end. Should we want them to take it seriously? Hell yeah, we should. But not because they get paid millions of dollars to play a game or whatever nonsense talking point you might want to read in the comment section. They should just have pride within themselves to give a damn. When Draymond Green declared the new format was trash and gave it a 0, his lack of self-awareness was hilarious. It was you, Draymond, you and your generation of players that put us in this position. Like, for as much praise as has been heaped upon Anthony Edwards on this show, he deserves every bit of criticism for being a late scratch and for seemingly shying away from being the face of the league when asked about it. Sorry, Ant. You can't be the Adidas top guy, face of Sprite's Christmas campaign, and star of Netflix basketball version of Drive to Survive and not bear some of the responsibility of being a face of the league. We don't need you to open up yourself to the world and let us into your personal life, which apparently is wild, but because you are that talented and that charismatic, the choice is out of your hands. Be smart, Ant. Be smart. And that goes for a lot of the league stars post LeBron and Steph. A lot of them seem to just want to do all the fun stuff, but shoulder none of the responsibility. While they might stumble and do and say dumb shit sometimes, like when LeBron sat out the game and didn't give anybody the chance to take his spot, at least you knew he and Steph stood on business when the time came. We all love Nikola Jokic, but boy, the depths he shows to not give a shit about All-Star or really anything related to hoops might be annoying to some, but I kind of think it's impressive. I bet if the league gave him the option to skip All-Star and fly back to Serbia for a few days to ride his horses, he would take it. And then there's Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is basically a real-life Prince Akeem from Coming to America. He should be this generation's Shaq, the lovable big man with a championship resume. But because Americans need an American to be their star, he's not as accepted as he should be. I think that's nonsense because basketball is a global game, and we should embrace our stars no matter where they come from. But that makes too much sense, I guess. How about Luka? He could be the one, but because he's a Laker now, everything he does now is great in my eyes. Don't count on Hard Pass to be objective about Luka anymore. Victor Wembanyama could be that guy, but right now, all we're hoping for is a complete recovery for Big Vic, who was recently announced as having a blood clot in his shoulder. Hopefully the reports are true and that it is an isolated situation and he'll be back next season. Now moving on, the fans. Fans need to stop lying to themselves that they actually care about the All-Star game. No one really cares. It's just a talking point they feel the need to bring up to get through the regular season before the playoffs. Once it's done, never to be discussed again until next February. Sports fans, especially terminally online NBA fans, care about one thing, and that's rings. Everybody has placed so much importance on championships that seemingly every other accomplishment is shoved to the side like it doesn't mean anything. Oh, LeBron broke the scoring record? Who gives a shit? He's got a losing record in the finals. James Harden is one of the NBA's greatest scorers and playmakers, and yet he's dogged constantly because he hasn't played to the level we expect him to in the playoffs. Chris Paul is on the short list of one of the best pure point guards to ever play this game. But because he's probably going to retire without a championship, he's a failure? Not saying the greats don't deserve criticism, but when 99% of the year fans talk about rings, the players are gonna not care about that time of the year when the focus of the whining shifts to All-Star game effort. And us fans can't be mad about it because we all put them up to this. They're just giving you what you want. Apathy. If people actually genuinely cared about things like All-Star games and individual accomplishments and other non-Larry O'Brien related achievements, then maybe the players would care too. And another thing fans need to do is stop lying to themselves about the 90s being so much better. Right. The 90s, when most of the All-Star games that decade were blowouts, when scoring was so atrociously bad that the league shortened the three-point line and actually made things worse, when the dunk contest was so painfully mediocre after Kobe won it in 1997 that they canceled it for 2 years before Vince Carter saved it, and after Vince saved it, we went back to trashing it so much that it scared LeBron James and generations of stars from wanting to do it? Should the players maybe grow some backbone and not care so much about fans' opinions on dunks? Absolutely. But again, we're in an era when billionaires beef with Twitch streamers over Path of freaking Exile stats. And are we really surprised Hoopers might get in their feelings because some clown who took a selfie with shades on inside of their pickup truck told them they were garbage? All right, enough of that. The media. As we're recording this, the second half of the regular season has already kicked off. And yet, we've got a bunch of hockey players and Stephen A. Smith still talking about the NBA All-Star Game. Again, hockey people, congrats on the Four Nations tournament. That's been a huge boon for you guys. Enjoy your victory lap and actually grow your sport. And I don't mean in the way that live guys are scripted to say whenever they get asked a serious question. If we're being real here, NBA media has always been kind of mid. For every legend like David Aldridge, Woj, and Zach Lowe, there's hundreds of hats, some that work at the biggest outlets who just love to chase that engagement bait. Oh, some fans are complaining about the NBA All-Star Game. Let's talk about it for several days, even in lieu of actually talking about the games because that's homework. Nah, let's just give hackneyed takes that are just repeats of the same shit from last year and the year before that. Maybe if the media actually fed the audience genuine criticism and analysis about the games being played, it would slowly shift the conversation away from the hot takes. It's funny. I was watching Pardon the Interruption the other day, and I was watching as Mike Wilbon, a journalist in the purest sense, and someone I have great respect for, complaining about the All-Star Game. Now, he's probably the biggest NBA apologist on ESPN, and even he was fed up. Hey, he's allowed to feel that, and it's good to see that he's not just carrying the league's water, but then he admits that he didn't even watch it on Sunday. Like, what? How can you crap on the format when you didn't even watch? And if we're being real, that goes for most of the fans complaining online. The hockey people who have probably never picked up a basketball in their lives and the media covering it. It's like gamers who pre-hate a game that's not even out yet, or movie nerds who hate on comic book movies even though they've never watched a single installment of The Avengers. Just hating because it's the thing to do. It's sad, really. It makes me think of Hubie Brown, the legendary broadcaster who recently called his last NBA game at the age of 91. For as long as he was calling NBA games, he never fed into the wider narratives or started beef with players and fans just to attract attention. Nah, he called the game and tried to make it easier for us to understand game strategy, like an analyst should. And I'm sure there are others waiting in the wings who can do the job Hubie did. I just hope that they're given the time to grow and build a relationship with the audience the same way Hubie was allowed to do. The last thing we need is another gas bag who just regurgitates the garbage they saw online and parrots it to get likes and views on the socials. And speaking of the media, I bet you're all tired of the TNT guys now, huh? When it was announced that TNT was losing the NBA rights, everybody cried about how they were going to lose Ernie, Kenny, Chuck, and Shaq. And then there was great joy when the show was going to be licensed by ESPN next season. All's well that ends well, right? Well, not so fast. As the season has progressed, we've started to see the backlash. The gimmicks were getting old, the takes were stale, and the chemistry felt off at times. Sure, there was moments of brilliance, as there always is on a show that's managed to stick together for as long as they have, but I've noticed more and more people showing their frustration with the show, culminating with the coverage of All-Star Weekend, which was treated like a series finale by the TNT crew. Like, okay, it's fine if they want to congratulate themselves on an amazing run, but man, it felt really self-indulgent. Again, nothing wrong with that. I mean, co-writer does whole segments on this show that basically are meant for an audience of one, but it killed the vibe for the revamped format that was kind of interesting and got players to at least try hard. The most egregious moment came during All-Star Sunday when the game took up less than half of runtime on the broadcast. Kevin Hart got more airtime than most of the players. There was a dumb Mr. Beast segment that was saved by Damian Lillard not trying too hard, and the stoppage of the games to congratulate the inside crew. Again, they're still gonna be on the air next year, and they still have this year's playoffs to actually do the proper send-off. Why the hell are we breaking the flow of the games to do this? And yet, we want the players to care? Why should they care when the media doesn't and scolds them for not caring? And one more thing. We're recording this the day after Canada beat Team USA in the Four Nations tournament. All we've seen from the coverage so far is how admirable and brave Team USA was in a losing effort. It was actually nice and encouraging to see that even in defeat, the fans had their back. However, don't let anyone fool you into thinking that complimentary, encouraging energy would have been the same if, say, Team USA's men's basketball team had lost in the Olympics last summer. Those same media hacks and fake fans who are proud of the hockey team would be pushing for the president to revoke Joel Embiid's naturalization and wonder if they could deport LeBron James. I see the grift. Now, finally, this one is to the league. Hey, NBA, let Jacques fix All-Star Weekend. Either cancel it for a year or two, see how everybody who hates it or claims to hate it starts to miss it, or follow these steps that I guarantee will work. We're available for consulting work. Just hit us up. Learn the lesson of the Pro Bowl. You know how no one gives a shit about the Pro Bowl? For all the glazing we do about how awesome football is and that everybody watches it and blah, 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 they somehow cannot get people to care about their All-Star Weekend. They've tried just about everything and still their ratings are garbage compared to a game between Cleveland and Jacksonville. Ugh, just thinking about that matchup makes my skin crawl. Anyway, instead of forcing the issue and saying the players need to show pride and care about a meaningless exhibition, the NFL just threw their hands up and turned everything into a glorified circus. They just do flag football and goofy skills competitions now. It's low stakes as any All-Star Weekend should be. The NBA should just embrace that. Don't allow the media and the fans to turn your showcase event into some sort of purity test of how serious you should take an exhibition. Also, move the event to before NBA Finals. They should still have the week-long break in February, but then push back the finals a week or so they can have All-Star Weekend in that time. Finals participants are excused. Fans can vote who they want in based on the totality of an entire season and not just the playoffs. That solves the problems of following the Super Bowl, and it lets players who do participate be less concerned about burning themselves out. Second idea, make it USA versus the world. Draymond Green was right. The problem is Draymond Green said it. The format is interesting, but not sustainable, even if it did create a funny moment when the rising stars almost beat the OGs and kind of shamed them into actually trying. If saying screw it and copying the Pro Bowl isn't in the cards, you know what would get them trying a little harder? Do it Ryder Cup style. No offense to the President's Cup, but the only team golf event that really matters then, now, and really forever is the Ryder Cup. You can't replicate the passion that the fans and the golfers have for that event, and if somehow the NBA was able to bottle up some of that magic in the All-Star game, that would be fire. Of course, they would still run into the problem of Nikola Jokic not giving a damn, but besides Joker, I think a motivated squad of Giannis, Luka, SGA, and a healthy Wemby would almost certainly force even Anthony Edwards to show up. Oh, and the fan vote can f off. Let coaches, players, and legit analysts determine the teams. Either that or eliminate the All-Star requirement when it comes to determine what max contract a player is eligible for. You can't have fans possibly determine the value of a player's contract. Sabrina Ionescu versus Kenny Smith three-point contest. Look, it's a bummer they couldn't figure something out with Caitlin Clark, but I think something equally awesome would have been Sabrina shutting hating-ass Kenny Smith up after he had that weird-ass rant during the Steph Sabrina showdown last year. Next up, a back-to-basics dunk contest. No props, no G Leaguers, no gimmicks. We're done watching guys who aren't even good enough to crack an NBA rotation. We want legit stars just doing cool dunks. They don't have to be the most spectacular or outrageous, but they have to participate. My only tweak would be for one round, each player has to dunk over a 7-footer like they would in an NBA game, and whoever has the most vicious looking poster gets a 50. Think about it. Trick dunks are cool, but you know what's cooler? Watching Ja Morant throw one down on a big man. I know no NBA center would allow themselves to be a dunk crash test dummy, but that's where the G Leaguers come in. Get the centers over there onto All-Star Weekend, have them stand in the painted area, and let the players try to do their best poster dunk on them. It's so good that the only thing stopping it is a potential injury, but again, because my All-Star idea would take place in June, they can recover during the offseason. I know none of those ideas, what I just said, are gonna have a chance in hell of happening, but it was worth a shot, right? Maybe. We'll talk about actual sneakers on this week's episode of Too Hard to Pass podcast, so make sure you check us out over there. And look, that's gonna do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week. If you'd like to possibly be featured in a future episode, call us at 818-493-9325. Leave a short message, your socials if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Peace. Like, were they good? Do you guys think they were good ideas? Seriously? Like, let me know in the comments. They've got to do something about All-Star Weekend. I don't know. Help me out, guys. Help me out. Peace.